What is going on, YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the debut album by rapper Future. Basically, this project is called Pluto, and it came out in the spring of 2012. Now, this is kind of a revolutionary album here. I would definitely have to say that this is like a page turner of a project compared to the Future mixtapes that dropped in 2011 and 2010 when he was starting to break out and stuff. This is definitely one that had like some massive kind of chart appeal and just overall hit potential. It just did a lot of damage throughout 2012. Definitely made Future one of the biggest artists of 2012 in terms of rap music, and just overall did a lot. It's surprising about this is because the backdrop of this particular album lasted from about early 2011 all the way until about the fall of 2012, and even then he re-released this album Pluto as Pluto 3D in late 2012. So it was just the Future was a big deal in 2012, one of the breakout stars that particular year. But I kind of knew about this album here and there, but I never quite full blown listened to it just like front to back as far as that particular context kind of happened. I have fucked with Future's mixtapes, and you can find some Future reviews on this particular channel, but I just kind of look after it. This is kind of an album that I knew that was a big deal back in 2012. And it's just kind of the concept about saying just to see what the commotion was about, just to see some of it. I definitely like initially as I was starting to review this and listen to it, I kind of thought that the singles were the biggest thing about it, but this actually turns out to almost be like a damn near classic out of the 2010s. It's not a full-blown classic, but it's definitely pretty close. It's kind of like something like T.I.'s Urban Legend, something like that, where T.I. did a great job in 2004 with songs like You Don't Know Me and Motivation and some of those type singles. He got to like the fourth single on that particular album, but it wasn't quite his breakout sheer success like Paper Trail and King and some of those type albums were. And I do feel like there's bigger Future albums, like Dirty Sprite 2 is an example of that. And I want to say that Honest was a little bit bigger. Also, some of those particular type ones, and definitely the things that he did in the late 2010s. I mean, Future continued to help revolutionize like trap music throughout the mid late 2010s, especially with Drake and stuff like that. He just did a lot of damage throughout the mid late 2010s with that Instagram life and some of those type things that kind of went within that fashion. But this is an album that was kind of a page turner and kind of separated things from like the late 2000s kind of vibes of folks like Jeezy and Lil Wayne and T.I. and some of those type folks. And it really felt like T.I. was kind of passing the baton to Future on like the song Magic Remix. It just kind of felt like T.I. was good on that particular song, but it just really felt more of like Future's song compared to T.I., who had just been dominant just like a year and a half or 2 years prior to that. So it's just kind of the concept. They're both from Atlanta, so it's kind of the concept as far as getting that particular pitch that Future was like the next big deal, and he just made a lot of noise throughout the early 2010s. Just interesting kind of see some of the stuff as far as like the 2012 kind of vibes kind of happened because this was still kind of Instagram life and things like that, social media, some of that type pitch or just early kind of social media type kicks and internet. It's not like this was an internet album. This is very much like a trap and kind of thuggish type album, I'd have to say, but it's also within the pitch of this as things started to get fleshed out towards more just like YouTube and Instagram and places like that, and just more kind of social media, Twitter, some of those type things where things were being tweeted and things like that as far as that pitch kind of happened. The early initiative of like internet rap. But once again, this is not an internet rap album, but it just had that social media kind of appeal. So it's just kind of something like Future's always been popular with that sort of social media type sense as far as Future's always been pretty Instagram bound as far as that particular kind of pitch kind of happens. It's just interesting kind of have this just be such a big deal just within the aspect of it. There were a lot of songs off this particular album that did a lot of damage. There's definitely like there is a deluxe edition that has Go Harder. I forgot to listen to that song, but I would have to say that I listened to like the 17 song edition that had Paradise and Fish Scale on there. And I'd have to say I don't recommend that particular edition, but I would have to say that there was an extra single. So I am going to up the score kind of mid review here just because I just listened to Go Harder and that's a pretty hit song. I'd have to say I do like the concept of that. So that is on the iTunes Deluxe Edition. So I would recommend getting that one. But the thing about it particularly is just the fact that but the thing about it particularly is just the fact that the Spotify edition of this particular album is the clean version, so it doesn't have the explicit version of. But the thing about it particularly is just the fact that the Spotify edition of Pluto is the clean version, so they only have Pluto 3D in the explicit version. So I'd have to say I would recommend just getting the iTunes edition. I'm not sure if you can get the deluxe edition with Go Harder on there. I mean, I would have to say the unfortunate thing about it is to kind of grade that. It's kind of here and there just because I don't know like me, like I would say that I would give this album, just to go ahead and say the score, I would give this album a 9 if the 18 song edition. I would give this album a 9 if Go Harder was the 16th song and that was just the only other song added to the list. But I would give this album an 8.75. But I would give the standard edition of this album an 8.75 out of 10. But then if there's the 18 song edition, which also has the songs Fish Scale and Paradise on there, that's kind of tricky. So I'd have to say me basically recommending out of 18 songs or out of 17 songs, me basically recommending 10 songs out of 17 plus 3 almost songs, that would be kind of here and there. I would almost say maybe like an 8.25, something like that. It's kind of scattershot to just doing the math real quick, just as far as that kind of pitch would happen. But I would definitely say the standard edition would get an 8.75 that just has 15 songs minus the intro, which would narrow it down to 14 songs, and then having the extra song Go Harder, which is on the iTunes, which I don't know if that's the 18th song or just the 16th, that they just add one new song. It would get a 9. But then I'm just going to go ahead. I think the iTunes Deluxe includes 3 new songs, which would be Go Harder, Paradise, and Fish Scale. So I just would say it would get like an 8.25, 8.5 out of 10, just because the extra 2 songs apart from Go Harder are just not really enough. I would say the deluxe edition of Pluto would get an 8.25, just because the extra 2 songs apart from Go Harder are just really not that great as far as that particular pitch happens. Just Paradise and Fishgill are really not that interesting or really compelling listens. Just to go ahead and let the cat out of the bag about those particular ones. They just kind of they were just kind of more pop rap, kind of pop trap type tunes that just didn't really have the compellingness. Trying to be like more of songs like Truth Gonna Hurt You and some of those type ones, and songs like Never End and Turn on the Lights and some of those particular type pitches, but they just didn't pull it off that well. But yeah, I mean, we've got a lot more to get to within this review, so I'll go ahead and talk about it. But basically, this album more or less is like a classic. That's just the thing about it. This album is more or less like a classic. It did a lot of things right in 2012. Definitely one of the bigger albums. I kind of feel like it's T.I.'s Urban Legend, like I was saying before. Just did a lot of good pitches. Was definitely something that just had a blockade of things that it did right. It was definitely one of the more notable, especially in commercial rap, as far as that pitch kind of happened. I would say it basically succeeded in bringing 2010's trap to the forefront. I would definitely suppose just did a lot of pitches right, just as far as that kind of happened. Had 5 singles off of here, plus the deluxe edition or the re-release that came out in November of 2012 was another good pitch. Also, it had some other singles on there and stuff like that, some bonus action as far as that particularly kind of happened. So just did a lot of things right. Future was a big deal in 2012. So we'll go ahead and talk about some of the singles. Just the Paramount kind of promotion cycle from being about the spring of 2011 to about the fall of 2012. But I'm not reviewing Pluto 3D. I'll get to that one at a later point, but we're going to review the 5 singles off this one. So the first single off this project is Tony Montana. Tony Montana is basically like a menacing and morosely good trap bop, I would have to say. It's a good sparkly highlight for early 2010s trap, I would definitely have to say, and it's a very vivid song. This has one of the best beats on the album. This is mixtape Future. I definitely feel like this felt like one of his hits from his mixtape days of 20. Tony Montana felt like one of Future's mixtape hits from 2011 as far as that pitch particularly kind of happened. Just has a real menacing kind of piano beat, just an effective beat, one of the best beats on the album. This is one that doesn't feel commercial. Like, the thing about this particular album is it's kind of watered down, I would have to say. I like this album, but I do like Future's mixtapes like Monster and some of those type ones and Purple Rain a lot more, just because they're not quite as commercial and watered down, just within the pitch of just being more introduced to audiences that are just not quite. I mean, it's something that's just kind of a lot more vanilla. This album is something that's a lot more vanilla, I would have to say, which is something I didn't notice back in the day as far as that pitch kind of particularly happened. But it's just easier to notice with all the stuff that's kind of gone on, especially with his mixtape era. So that's a good concept. But I look after it. Go Harder is the second single, and this is on the deluxe edition with iTunes. So I would recommend getting that, despite the fact that some of the other songs are not quite as heavy hitting. So Go Harder is basically like a pop trap kind of commercial bustling hit, I would have to say. It's like a mini venue party bubbler, I would definitely feel like, and it's a rowdy but presentable type song, I would definitely feel like, and it's just pretty sturdy. So this is definitely a good example of one. This just kind of feels like something that Eminem or like Ludacris would have cranked out back in the 2000s. Just something that feels like vintage and stock and vanilla kind of 2010s rap music as far as it kind of happens. It's just about as commercial. Definitely one of the more commercial rap songs of like the early 2010s as far as that pitch kind of particularly kind of happens. Just would look after, it's just a good vanilla type song to kind of get, but it does have like a good standard amount of bustle. It is pretty motivating, I'd have to say, and it does a good job of getting you on your feet and just things like that as far as getting some kickoff and just getting ready out there and just having like a miniature kind of party in like a minor sense. It basically would have been like what T.I. and Ludacris was to folks back in 2001 and 2004 and stuff. It's just the same sort of pitch. It's kind of a vanilla kind of trap cut that just works pretty heavily, and this is commercial and had that bite about it. So, but the Magic remix is the third single, and this has T.I. on there. This is kind of like the baton passing of a song, I would almost feel like, in a minor sense. I mean, T.I. was still a big deal in 2012, but it's just kind of the in-between, like, transitionary type period, I would have to suppose. This is kind of a more in-between type trap Magic Remix is more of an in-between kind of trap malaise, I would have to say. It's similar to Tony Montana, but it's just more mundane, humdrum, and workaday, I would have to say. So this one's a little bit more kind of evening malaise, I would have to suppose. It's a little bit more 4 o'clock p.m. type pitch as far as that kind of particular vibe kind of has the same almost kind of piano type beat, but it's just a little bit more kind of workaday, I would say, within that pitch. So it's a good concept to kind of get some of these. T.I. actually kills his verse. He does a pretty excellent job on here. Definitely have to recommend it. Same Damn Time is another highlight. This is definitely a pretty nice one. This is a pretty riveting type one, I'd have to say. Definitely enjoyed this one. This is like an alert and kind of turned up trap highlight, I would have to say. It's pretty different from 2000s trap, I'd have to suppose, but it's just a good trailblazing and contagious type song. So this is definitely one that's like Future's mixtape fare, just a more commercialized version of it. The sort of stuff that he was doing on like Dirty Sprite 1 and some of those particular mixtapes like Free Bricks and some of those 2011 mixtapes that had some hits on there. It's really kind of commercial, but it's not this one is not a sellout of a song, I'd have to say. This is just kind of a vivid one that was just trying to make trap kind of to bigger audiences as far as that pitch kind of happens. It's a good variation of it. Good hit Future. This is just a good hit Future single, especially from 2012. Just a classic. This is just a classic 2012 rap song that's hooky and just does things right. So I definitely say that that's a nice one. Then Turn on the Lights is probably one of the biggest songs off this particular album. This is the 5th single, and this just did a lot of damage. There's further singles on Pluto 3D, so this album is a big deal, like I was saying, out of 2012. But Turn on the Lights, very similar to like Rihanna and just a lot of stuff. This is a pretty revolutionary song, I'd have to say. This is just like a hazy kind of druggy trap R&B of a song, I'd have to say. It's a good commercial. It's a good commercial rap hit from 2012, definitely. It's just a new and refreshing kind of song, I would feel like, and it's just very candid. So this is probably one of, like I was saying, this is one of Future's biggest songs of like the early 2010s, I'd have to suppose. This song just had some pretty good chart appeal, and it's just the most popular song off of Spotify with over 60 million plays, I'd have to suppose. So it's just the song was just an easy highlight, just did a lot of things right, and just had that vivid kind of appeal. It just did a lot of damage, I'd have to suppose. So that's a real nice one, I'd have to say. Just real kind of trap R&B that just was pretty vivid, just within the sense of doing it. Just a revolutionary type song. So that's basically the singles off this particular project. So now, in my opinion, there were some extra songs that got some spins, like Parachute and Never End were a couple extra songs that I felt like got some spins. I remember hearing on television, radio, I remember hearing Parachute, so that was at least a song that got airplay on like rhythmic charts and things like that. That's a pretty nice song. But yeah, to basically talk about these, so out of 17 songs on here, I wound up recommending to you at least 13, which is kind of the concept. But really, the reality of it is out of those 13 songs, there's 10 songs I recommend, and 3 of them are almost songs. So that's why it's kind of here and there. So that's kind of why I was here and there, like I was saying. It's just kind of the pitch behind it. But I'll go ahead and recommend the 10 songs and then the 3 almost songs. So the 10 songs I recommend would be Tony Montana, Turn on All the Lights, Same Damn Time, Magic Remix, Parachute, Never End, You Deserve It, Astronaut Chick, Homicide, and Go Harder. And the 3 almost songs were I'm Trippin', Straight Up, and Truth Gonna Hurt You. So basically, to talk about these almost songs, like I'm Trippin's a pretty good one. This is like a Glaze kind of get turned tune, I'd have to say. I'm Trippin' is like a Glaze kind of get turned tune, I'd have to say, but it's rather commercial and it feels watered down when the time. I'm Trippin's a pretty good one for the most part. This is like a Glaze kind of get turned tune, I'd have to say, but it's rather commercial and it feels watered down when the time comes to get cranked, I'd have to say. This is just kind of a commercial rap type tune. Does a decent spacey kind of job of being a good song to smoke to and get fucked up to as far as that kind of sense happens. But I feel like Future's mixtape fare just stampedes all over this. It just doesn't compare in terms of like the commercial light. This is something that was intended for like a more widespread audience, and as a result, this is just not one of the best songs to get turned to. It's a decent one. Juicy J's on here to help bone. Juicy J's on this song also to help things out a little bit more, but this is really kind of a tame type song compared to some of the pitches that especially you can find out there. It's just kind of a commercial. If you're looking for commercial rap, especially out of the early 2010s, this is a good example, but it is watered down. Same thing with Straight Up. This is another one. This is a real kind of peppy type song. This is a peppy kind of pop trap heat of a song, I'd have to say. It's motivated and enthused, and it works. This song is motivated and enthused. It works as a make it happen kind of hustle song, but it's just kind of tamer in a sense. This reminds me of something that like Fast Life Youngstas or like the New Boys would have done just out of like the late 2000s, early 2010s. This is one of those peppy type ones that Tyga or Young Money or some of those type folks would have done. I mean, it has like a decent amount of pep about it, but it's just really kind of commercial and just kind of tamer, I would say, in that sort of sense. I still recommend it, but it's just not a full blown one. If you're not kind of in a peppy mood or something like that, it's just not really that. The energy is just kind of, it's rambunctious, but I look at the concept, it's just kind of a strange one for Future just within that sense. It's just a nice bustling tune, but it's just kind of, it's a little bit tamer in the sense compared to like some of these other ones. Like Tony Montana is just a more vicious song. Same Damn Time's a more vicious song. Magic Remix is a more vicious. Magic Remix is a more vicious song, and Parachute's a more vicious song. So there's just some more vicious songs, but that one's just a peppy one. And then and then Truth Gonna Hurt You is another kind of commercial type tune, just in like a more Malaise sense. This is like a Malaise kind of trap evening makeshift of a song. I'd have to say it's somber but commercial feel that it has. I would definitely have to say. And it's just an early kind of Instagram life type hit, I would have to suppose. This one's just kind of a Malaise type one, something that would work for like a hustler's mindset for just like some of that kind of makeshift kind of 4 o'clock, 5:30 p.m. sunset type skies type feel as far as that just a 4:30, 5:30 p.m. sunset skies type feel as far as that pitch kind of particularly kind of happens. Just kind of one of those ones that you would get like out of alternative rock or just folks like that, just in a Malaise sort of sense. This is kind of like a somber kind of sullen type one, but it just kind of has commercial rap type lyrics. It's a real basic kind of song, but this works in like a minor sense or a relative. This works in like a relative sense. So it's just kind of, this is another one that's just kind of watered down compared to some of the pitch. I feel like Future can do Malaise songs just way better. This one just kind of felt like phoned in, I would have to suppose. So this one's okay, but I still recommend it enough to say it's a decent little song. So, but one of the best songs on this album, I would have to say, that's not watered down is Parachute. And this has a surprising feature from R. Kelly. He does a great job on here, I'd have to say. This is just a real kind of breezy trap R&B type song, I'd have to say. It's a woozy kind of nightclub pizzazz that this song particularly kind of has. And it's just a good paced dance hit, I would have to say. Has a fun tempo and just overall, this song has a fun tempo and some good melodies on it. So this is just a very easy kind of hit. So Parachute is just a very highlighted kind of hit, just a real kind of boppish type one of the best songs on the album. This is just some real good nightclub pizzazz. I would have to definitely feel like this is a real kind of breezy type one. So R. Kelly does a pretty excellent job with Parachute, and so does Future. They just kind of bounce off this song and just do it extremely well. This is just a real nice rhythmic kind of hit that this is probably one of the most catchy songs on the album, I'd have to say. Just a real nice highlighted one. Never End is another highlighted one. This was basically a single on, this song was basically a single on Pluto 3D, I'd have to say, and that one had Kelly rolling, but this one's still a pretty good one. This is like a similar kind of commercial trap hit to Turn on the Lights, I'd have to say. It just helped flesh out 2010's trap, I'd have to suppose, and it's just a sparkly kind of club hit. Yeah, Never End is just a sparkly kind of club hit, I would have to suppose. This one's very similar to Turn on the Lights, and there's another song that's just like it, I'd have to suppose. I forget. I would say Go Harder is a pretty similar song to this one. There's another one that's kind of similar to that, and like the singles, I'd have to say, apart from Turn on the Lights. I would say Turn on the Lights, Never End, and Go Harder all have like some commercial trap type feels about them that just have a very vivid sense and revolutionary sense at that, just in the pitch of how they did it. So that's some good stuff there. You Deserve It's another one that kind of has that particular. You Deserve It's another one that kind of has that particular pitch. I forgot about this one. This is like a sparkly kind of pop trap glaze of a song, I'd have to say. It's a vivid energy. This song has the vivid energy of Turn on the Lights, but it's more sunny and outdoor commerce, I would have to say. So it's a good concept to kind of get this one. This is definitely one for just being in the wind, just some traverse just within that pitch, just a real kind of 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock p.m. type sunny skies, stuff like that. Just kind of a trap Malaise. I mean, it's not Malaise, but it's just for Future. It's relative. It's kind of a sunny song, but for Future, it still has some of that Malaise about it, where it's just kind of a little bit of that drear and kind of blear. You Deserve It is a sunny song from Future as far as that particular pitch kind of happens, but it's still kind of a glitzy and electronic type tune, so it still works for some kind of glitzy kind of Malaise about it, but still relatively sunny for Future as far as that pitch kind of happens. It's just an optimistic type song and just kind of a more chugging along kind of just sunny skies. It's real peppy type song, I'd have to suppose. It's interesting kind of get some of these that Future kind of had a little bit more. He's not always as Malaise on this particular album. It's not offhand, it's not off-putting to get these from Future, but it is kind of offhand. It's just kind of unexpected, that sort of pitch of him having some of that kind of sunny type pep that he kind of has. But these are some ones that kind of have it. I do recommend this one more so than Straight Up, I'd have to say. Was just kind of the concept of this one's just a little bit like same. This one's a little bit like Turn on the Lights and Never End, just a little bit more in like Sunny Skies and Traverse, I'd have to say. It's a little bit commerce, a little bit more of a commerce song. And then another song similar to You Deserve It is Astronaut Chick. This is basically like a vanilla trap kind of ladies gem, I'd have to say. It's regular commerce. This song is regular commerce, I would have to say, and it's just workaday in like an urban sense, I would definitely feel like, and it's just about commercial, I'd have to say. It's just pretty much the pitch. This is another kind of commercial type one. It's just kind of watered down in like a sense for the ladies as far as that pitch kind of happens. I know Future has better trap songs for the ladies as far as that pitch kind of happens. Definitely feel like he needed a song with like a beat like Tony Montana or something like Turn on the Lights. Turn on the Lights is definitely pretty. Turn on the Lights is definitely a pretty vivid one, but that's pretty commercial also. So I would say Astronaut Chick, Turn on the Lights are some good ones for ladies, and definitely Parachute would be some nice ones. So it's just kind of some good, definitely kind of some good concepts as far as that pitch kind of happens. And then Homicide's a nice one too. I definitely like this one. This is like a rugged kind of trap edginess of a song. It's pretty similar to 3 6 Mafia, I would definitely have to say. It's got a great beat, and it's just a smoke a few kind of cut, I would have to suppose. Definitely smoke some stogies in the night skies, just that sort of pitch as far as it kind of happens. And this is just good for some night commerce. This is definitely something that reminds me of Project Pat, Juicy J, 3 6 Mafia, some of those type folks. Typical kind of rugged and thuggish type rap tune as far as that sense kind of happens. I would have to say just a real kind of 3 6 Mafia esque type tune. I would have to suppose. This really there probably needed to be another song like this. I'd have to suppose, but this is kind of a commercial rap type album. So there weren't a ton of songs like this, but this is definitely about as vivid as Tony Montana in terms of beat quality. It's one of the best beats on the album. I'd have to overall kind of say, and a great song to kind of smoke some swishers too. Definitely, this kind of happens to be the thing. So talk about the two songs on this particular project that I didn't recommend, which would just be Long Live the Pimp and then Permanent Scar. Like I really didn't like the glitzy kind of beat of Permanent Scar. This one's just kind of like a pop rap type tune that just didn't pull it off that well. It's just kind of a little bit too boisterous, the one that just didn't pull off the energy. Then Long Live the Pimp was just kind of like a drink sipping type song that just had one of the worst beats on the album. This was just a pretty terrible one, just a bad ode to Pimp C as far as that particularly kind of happened. Just didn't really like the affluence of that. It was this Future trying to do like some Texas rap and he just didn't pull it off that well. Kind of a waste of a Trade the Truth feature as far as that particularly kind of happens. So that's the pitch about this particular album. So me recommending 10 out of 17 songs. So me recommending 10 songs out of 17 on this particular album plus 3 almost songs. I'm going to go ahead and give this album, the deluxe edition, like an 8.25 out of 10, but the standard edition gets an 8.75 out of 10 because I feel like the three deluxe songs don't enhance the project because I feel like the 3 deluxe songs don't enhance this project much apart from Go Harder, I'd have to say. So it gets an 8.75 on the standard, 8.25 on the deluxe, and that's just kind of the thing about it. The social score though, I'm going to go ahead and give but the social score of this album, I'm going to go ahead and give like a 9.25 out of 10 because I feel like it did a lot of things right just within that pitch. It was very revolutionary and a page turner and trailblazing and stuff like that. Just had a lot of commercial rap, just did things, revolutionized things, help transgress things to social media like Twitter and Instagram and things like that. It was just very revolutionary in that sort of sense. Plenty of hit songs like Tony Montana, Turn on the Lights, Magic Remix, some of those type ones, Astronaut Chick, some of those type ones, Same Damn Time, definitely just some real good ones that had some of that vivid type of feel. This is basically damn near a classic album in most pitches, I would have to suppose. Just a few blunders that kind of kept it and prevent it from being that full blown. But this is definitely a great debut. Did a lot of things. This is definitely a great debut. Did a lot of things right. Just an overall revolutionary project that helped set things off for like later in the 2010s when Future would continue to revolutionize music and trap music and that sort of pitch as far as that kind of happens. Just some good stuff to kind of have. So in terms of the future, like Future has dropped Future has dropped an album like in 2022. I know he dropped an album called I Never Liked You or something like that. I know he's put out some other stuff. I don't really remember. I'm trying to think if he dropped an album in 2023. I'm not really sure. I know he's working on a project with like Metro Boomin or something like that. He has some stuff in the mix, but this is still a good album to get. We're going to get to some more of his mixtapes and things like that. There's definitely some more hits to kind of mess with. So I just would have to, there's definitely some more hits to mess with, I would definitely have to suppose. But this is a pretty revolutionary album, despite the fact that it might be minorly kind of watered down. I still would have to say I recommend it quite a bit.